Well, we can start. It's already 2 minutes ahead of 3.
Yeah. So hello and welcome all. This is Dheeraj. I'm from AWS. So welcome to this webinar, which is on workspaces. So workspaces is an virtualized, fully managed desktop virtualization service, which will enable our users to access the data, applications, and resources whenever they need, anywhere and anytime for any supported devices. Okay. So this webinar is conducted in partnership with Rapider, which is our premium partner, AWS partner. And I am joined here by my colleagues from AWS and my partner team. So from AWS, we have Mr. Abhishek Sarolia, who is the solution architect, and he'll be presenting on the workspaces today. And from Rapider, we have Mr. Ashish Kohl joining us. So, and from the AWS part of AWS sales team, I have Mr. Vatsal, who handles these North Territory for AWS, and we have Mr. Gurdipinder from Rapider handling the same territory. So I would like Mr. Ashish to start by giving some introduction to how Rapider and AWS's partnership has worked, and then we can start. Abhishek will start with presenting on the workspaces webinar. So guys, Ashish, you can please take over, and then let us know if you need.
Thanks, Dheeraj. Let me share my screen. Let me know, Dheeraj, if you can see the screen.
Yeah, I can see the screen.
Thanks, Dheeraj. Thanks for the warm introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashish Kohl. As Dheeraj already said, I'm part of Rapider. I would like to thank you all for taking out time from your busy schedule to attend this webinar on AWS Workspaces. Workspaces is a DaaS, desktop as a service solution, and helps to move from CapEx to OpEx model, and also take away some pain from our IT friends to manage hardware, and definitely helping to save cost. Once I do an introduction about Rapider as a partner to AWS, a bit Sheikh will be running us through in detail for 30 minutes on workspaces, and he also has some kind of demo plan for you, and after that we'll have a question and answer session for around 10 minutes. So with that, I would like to take next 5 minutes to introduce Rapider, who we are, what we do, and how we can associate with our customers in your tech journey. We're advanced consulting partners to AWS. We are on cool off period for being premier partner, which is the top tier partnership for any partner on AWS ecosystem. By choice, we have been exclusively doing AWS for the last 4 years. We are a 4-year young company established in 2017. We have grown from a team of 5 members to 117 people in these 4 years. And we aspire to be a 500 people team by 2023. If you guys follow us on LinkedIn, I'm sure we'll see a lot of job posts coming in from our side. In this journey, we've been fortunate to work for many startups, SMBs, and enterprises who repose their confidence on us for their tech journey. Till date, we have implemented almost 580 projects for 260 unique customers. Our total number of employees is 110. All our employees are AWS certified, be it in the space of sales or pre-sales or delivery, all have requisite certificates with them. In terms of geographical presence, our headquarters is in Bangalore. We also have regional offices in Delhi and West in Mumbai and Pune. We have left our email ID here in case you want to know more about Rapider, how we can partner and help you in your tech journey. Please write to info@rapider.com. We also have left our number there, which you can note down, and our ISR teams will get back to you. In this journey, we have launched almost 3,800 plus VMs. And out of these 260 customers, 90 customers are our managed services customers, which means they are being continuously managed by us, be it infra management or database management or managing some of their security services. One definite area for us is delivery. If you look at this slide, we mentioned around 99% projects have been timely completed by us, which is a strong area for us. So in this slide, I'll try to cover up what are our strength areas and what are AWS services that we have deployed for different customers. On the left-hand box, you see cloud migration services. That's a strength area for us, where we have helped a lot of customers to migrate from on-premise or from cloud or from co-location to AWS. And in this journey, we have also acquired AWS migration competency review partner, which means we can help customers to do large and complex migration projects, which can be upwards of 100 or 200 or 300 VMs. We're also a DevOps competency certified partner. When we say competency certified partner, which means AWS has certified us as being the DevOps competency partners. There are different audits from AWS or third parties which a partner has to incur to get different competencies. We're also a Windows migration certified partner. We also help customers in modernization and containerizing their workloads on AWS. We also happen to be well-architected review partner, which means if you are already on AWS and want your architecture on AWS to be reviewed in terms of optimization or security or in terms of best practices, that can be done by Rapider experts. And we also help to do the changes if customer wants us to do it for them. So apart from setting up VMs, setting up, migrating on AWS, we also help customers in other services like workspaces. We already spoke about it. Abhishek will be speaking detail about it. We also help customers deploy Pinpoint. Pinpoint is a digital user engagement platform from AWS, which is a flexible and scalable outbound and inbound marketing communication service. You can connect with customers over channels like email, SMS, push, and voice. We have deployed Pinpoint for a lot of our customers in fintech, e-commerce space. Also, we support customers in their database migration journey. We help customers to set up CloudFront, which is a CDN service of AWS. We have deployed it for a lot of customers. We also help to deploy security services like WAF, Shield, Advanced Shield, Guard Duty for our customers. So apart from this, also, if a customer is planning their journey on AWS as part of consulting journey, we can do assessment for customers, which means we can help them to see what are the challenges they'll face if they're planning a migration, whether a lift and shift or in that matter, if we also see there's a scope for app modernization, how we can plan it, how we can plan their complete migration journey on AWS is what our teams help customers with. So we also have expertise in serverless computing. This is one more area that we help our customers in. So in nutshell, last 4 years, if we have to summarize, we have done almost 300 plus migrations for different customers. We have done 70 plus projects on DevOps, which we have done in the fintech space, we have done in the edtech space. And also we have executed 25 plus projects on Pinpoint and containerization. So with that, I go to my last slide, which is a use case about workspaces. We have deployed close to 5,000 workspaces for 10 of our customers in last 9 to 12 months. This was a unique use case where customer had acquired a company and there were around 500 new users who had to be brought into their network and they wanted them to move fast, where workspaces was a good fit. Customer reached to us, we planned a POC and tried to test various features along with the customer. And once the POC was successful, we helped customer to migrate into production, all 500 users. And it took us around 3 to 4 weeks time to get them moved on workspaces. So with that, I will hand it over to Abhishek for running us in detail on workspaces.
Thanks, Ashish, and for the brief introduction about Rapider. Let me just quickly share my screen. Can anyone confirm whether my screen is visible?
Yes, Abhishek, it is visible.
Okay. And my voice is audible enough, right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Cool. All right, so good afternoon and welcome everyone. I would like to again thank you for spending time today to attend this session and give us an opportunity to talk about Amazon Workspaces, which is a managed desktop as a service offered from the AWS cloud, which can be used to kind of run the persistent desktop experience in AWS cloud. Brief intro about me. I'm Abhishek Sarolia, currently working as a solution architect with AWS, helping customers to solve their technical and business challenges on AWS cloud, and also helping them in architecting their solutions as per the best practices for AWS cloud. So with that, so basically this session will be mainly handled in English, but if you think that you want to ask certain questions in Hindi, you can very well ask them, and I'll be happy to answer them. And since this, due to interest of the time, all these questions we are planning to take in the end of the session, but if you think that during the session, if you have certain queries or questions which you want to ask, don't keep them with yourself. You can type them in chat, and or the team will try to answer them. Otherwise, I'll take them in the end. So with that further ado, let's move on. So let's first talk about why we are talking about this today. What is the need? So the number one reason is the data center is changing. So what I mean with that is millions of the customers, be it fast growing startups, enterprises, banking, insurance, or any government entities, all are moving into AWS cloud to reap the benefits of latest in the compute, storage, ML, AI, databases, or analytics. And they are doing this to basically identified reasons for that is the agility, elasticity, cost optimization, global scale, security, and reliability. So what I mean with that is once the businesses move into cloud, they get the agility and elasticity to try out new things. They don't need to upfront plan out the things in terms of the capacity, how much is the peak demand for their business. They need to need how many servers. With cloud, they have the agility to spin up thousands of the server as they need, scale them down when they don't need, or when the business volume is low, which kind of tied up into the cost optimization thing, where they can reap out more benefits in terms of the cost, because they are now no longer required to go into the upfront contracts for their servers or with the data centers. They can take advantage of the global scale of AWS infrastructure, because today business are moving and growing very fast, and the average age of a Fortune 500 company is 20 years now. The businesses which were before 20 years are nowhere seen here, right? All the businesses are growing and evolving quite rapidly, and with that global scale of AWS, you get all the advantages of expanding to the new regions, new geographies. And the security and reliability are the two other, one of the prominent factors because of the high, because of which we have seen the high growth of AWS in the recent past. So the performance, security, and reliabilities are the key factors which contributed to the growth. The way we work is also changing now due to the effect of globalizations. Employees or the workforce are required to work from anywhere, anytime, and they are required to access their applications, files, data from any devices. They are no, and businesses are no longer required to work from on specific geographies. They are kind of distributed across the globe. They are onboarding workforces from different geographies of the world, and they need a mechanism so that they can serve their users in an effective way. In fact, if in the recent research have shown that around 70% of workforce currently is working remotely, be it due to this pandemic situation, or due to the flexible work hours which organizations are moving into by employing the contractors or freelancing, which basically kind of contributes to the gig economy, which currently estimated around of 16 million. With that changing dynamics, security is becoming paramount importance right now. So organizations need a mechanisms to secure all these devices. They need to allow the businesses to, or the workforces to access their apps anywhere and anytime. And in fact, 1 in every 3 data breaches across the world is being reported because of the stolen devices, or the breach happened because of the stolen devices. So this is challenging, and IT is facing a lot of challenges in terms of meeting all these dynamics of the businesses. Uh, Traditionally, in the on-premise environment, uh, businesses need to do an upfront investment in terms of acquiring the systems, servers, capacity to serve the business. And if they need to allow the bring your own device mechanism, where they allow users to bring their devices and then allow them those devices to access their apps, required complex app management, because they have to control the security and they have to control how users will be accessing. They need to monitor that stuff. In addition to that, when they need to secure those devices, they have to ask users to kind of store certain security applications, which business or the users will not be that aligned to in terms, because they are skeptical in terms of what IT can see on their personal devices, which all actually contributes to a poor user experience. So all these IT challenges we try to solve and address using AWS and user computing suite of services. And we have a mission over on the AWS and user computing services is to provide users an anywhere, anytime access to all their company data or applications on their favorite devices. Also help IT to maintain the data security, as well as reduce the frictions around the user productivity and the complexity of managing all those devices. That basically increases the user experience. So if I talk about the suite of services which AWS Cloud currently offers on the end user computing side, we have Amazon Workspaces, which I'll talk about more in detail in this session, which is kind of a managed desktop as a service. Then we have the AppStream, which is basically so basically workspaces gives you a persistent desktop experience, but if there are businesses who don't require that persistent desktop experience, then they can utilize AppStream, which is again a managed service offered as a desktop as a service, but for non-persistent experience. Then we have the Worklink, which basically allows businesses to access the corporate websites or data on their mobile devices as a managed service without requiring any kind of VPN and other technologies to allow that. And then we have the Amazon Workdocs, which basically gives you a flexibility to store, or it gives you a cloud managed storage, which you can access on your various computing devices. So who all are using? So there are lot of and tens of thousands of customers who are currently running their workloads on AWS and utilizing a lot of services. And for EUC based services, there are customers from oil and gas, which you can see here, education, manufacturing, and pharmaceutical, ITES, all those customers are utilizing EUC services to kind of increase the experience for their users to manage the desktop or to manage the applications which they or the files or data which they want to serve to their users. So Amazon Workspace transforms the end user computing in 6 fundamental ways. So one is, which is foremost and quite evident, is access to the resources anywhere on any devices. You can access from mobile, desktop, supported tablets, iPads, any device. You can restrict them based on trusted device mechanism. So Workspaces offer that. It solves the scalability needs of the business. So today, if you are serving only 10 users on a desktop as a service, tomorrow if you want to scale out and then serve thousands of the users, you can do that within minutes. So it scales with your changing workforce requirements. It also enables the innovations. So all these services are offered as an API and SDKs, which enables you to integrate it with your on-premise or your existing services like ServiceNow or somewhere else, where you want to integrate them and then gives a better user experience to manage. So that can be done. So it enables the innovation, and it gives you those tools and drivers which you can use to enable that innovation. Security and control, again, it's the day zero at AWS. We take that very seriously, and that is the case with each and every service. With workspaces, you have all the options to kind of encrypt the data at rest, as well as the streaming data, what you are streaming on to the end user devices. Everything is encrypted. You can control that. You can trust devices, so that you can control what all devices can access that particular data or that particular desktops. If you're talking about workspaces, it overall, all these things increases the productivity, and obviously the pay as you go model, which gives you a cost benefit, because you are not bound to manage all those of VDI infrastructure and on the data center. Everything is managed for you, and you just consume it and scale it as and when the business need. With Amazon workspaces, as I talked about, security is paramount. And these are the isolated workspaces where if you have the connection in place with your workspaces endpoint, you're able to access all your files, all your applications, all your data. Once the connection is dropped, everything is disconnected, and your entire IP thing is secured, isolated in cloud. Nothing is on your on the user's local machine. So it kind of bridges that gap where business are concerned around whether the data can be downloaded or something like that. As I talked about, workspaces is supports the data encryption. You can encrypt the volumes, which are kind of in the backend supports the workspaces machines. So you can encrypt that. You can encrypt the streaming content, which is streaming to the end user devices. So that can be done. Also, you can monitor all that stuff if required, so that how users are connecting to the workspaces to give the auditing feature, so that can also be done. Amazon Workspaces plays very well with the existing tools. So if you have some on-premise investment in place where you have already some licensing is in place, which you want to reuse, you can definitely use those things. So for example, Microsoft Active Directory, if you're using to authenticate the users, yeah, that is supported as an AD connector on AWS Cloud with Microsoft with Workspaces. So the users can still be authenticated on your on-premise network. If you're not using that, you can use the managed Active Directory in cloud also. You can use multi-factor authentication mechanism like Radius Server, which you're using on on-premise. If you're required to do that, you can continue to use those tools and technologies. And similar is the case with the systems and patch management, as well as the any certificate authority if you're using and you want to reuse them. So you can definitely use them. So talking about the flexibility, what Amazon Workspaces gives to the business is we support a lot of clients. So it can be desktop, it can be mobile, it can be web, it can be iPads, it can be tablets. All those devices are supported. In terms of the operating systems, if I talk about, we support both the Windows and Linux based desktops. So both are those supported. Uh, again, businesses have very specific needs in terms of how they want to use the desktop as a service, because there are certain businesses who just want the minimalistic configurations where they just want to use some basic configuration. So there we have the value and standard packs which they can use. If you have some agnostic uses of in terms of the desktop processing, be it in code development and others, which we'll be talking about in subsequent slides, the use cases around that. So you can have different bundles for that. So performance, power pro. Then if you are doing some kind of graphics intensive work, so you also have that option to kind of pick that bundle and then use those desktop as a service. Again, this gives you a flexible pricing where you can opt for a monthly pricing, or you can go for an hourly billing. You have always you have the options to bring your own license. So if you're already running some kind of an Microsoft license and you want a desktop experience, right? So for that, if you want to bring that in, you can use that, and that there is some cost benefit of doing that also. Talking about the global scale in which this service is being served, so this has been served across the globe. One of the regions in which for India also we have recently launched workspaces, so that now the users or the businesses don't require to spin up the workspaces in any other geographic regions. They can very well spin up these desktops in the India region also. But other than that, we have few regions available in America, then few in Europe, then in APAC and in Australia. So talking about the bundles, so Amazon Workspaces basically comes in various bundle offerings, where you get a value bundle for the cases where you have basic uses, not much, like some call center stuff where they don't want any kind of specific users on the machines that can use that stuff. Standard is where they want to use some kind of office products. Performance and power is where you want to run some kind of development workloads. Power Pro is where again some kind of an intensive workload you want to run. So again, all these packs or the bundles comes with a variation of their CPU and the RAM. So as you can see here, you have the variation and the CPU with each of the bundle types, like value, standard, performance, power, and Power Pro all have their different variation on that. And subsequently, you'll have the root volume and the user volumes, which are being given as part of this bundle offering. You can choose in various combinations of that. Again, the pricing shown here is the starting price for the minimalistic configurations. So, but if you want to check out on the actual pricing for these, you can go and check out this link. I would recommend you to go and check, where you will get the pricing for each of the bundles. And if you select and vary the configurations, you will get the pricing for that. Again, all these bundles comes with a software utilities, standard utilities packed in, which you don't need to install anything. But other than that, we do offer a lot of additional bundles. Like if you want to require some kind of an antivirus like Trend or something, you can additionally opt for that bundle and then get that in your desktop. For authentication, you can integrate it with your on-premise Active Directory or AWS Managed Active Directory. But apart from that, you can also use SimpleAD, which is a Samba-based authentication mechanism, which you can use to kind of authenticate users on these workspaces bundles. Every bundle is coming with an 50 GB of workdoc storage by default, so you can take utilization of that. And so again, these bundles vary based on the streaming protocol. So Amazon Workspaces supports two types of streaming protocols. One is the WSP protocol, which is a Amazon cloud native protocol of streaming the workspaces over to the internet. And then we do have the PCOIP protocol, which is a private client over IP internet protocol. This protocol is used for zero clients, where zero clients are basically clients where they don't need any kind of significant compute power and the end user endpoint. So they can run the minimalistic configurations to just access the cloud desktop and then use that for their business operations. So we also running the limited time offer currently, which basically gives you all the new customers which are in free tier have an option to kind of utilize the Amazon Workspaces work from home offer. It's currently running till July 31st, 2021, where you have the option to spin up around 54 total workspaces on various bundles as mentioned here. So you have the option to kind of run a Windows standard bundle and spin up at least 50 workspaces over there, or you can spin up the corresponding workspaces in various different bundles like Linux standard or Windows value bundle or the Windows performance bundle. So if you are considering that, I would recommend you to just check it out, this offer also, which is available for free for the new users to start with Amazon Workspaces. Now, once you choose a specific bundle, it's not necessary that you have to stay on with that bundle. So Amazon Workspaces gives you a option to actually switch those bundles. So you can do that manually. Otherwise, you can utilize this, the cost optimizer cost optimizer plug and play solution, which basically monitors your users of the workspaces, like how long the users are being connected to your workspaces. Is it like they have been using for 12 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours? And based on that, it takes the decision like whether which type of configuration bundle is more apt for that particular usage, and then in fact do that modifications for you. So if you are thinking to do some kind of an automation around that, then this solution can help you with that. So let's talk about how customers are using Amazon Workspaces. So they are using in many different ways, but the key trends what we are seeing here is uh, where they have to kind of support mobile or remote employees or remote working scenarios. That's a key trend which is coming up in recent months due to pandemic situations. But other than that, also it's been heavily used to kind of onboard the employees temporary as well as permanent also. And research has shows that businesses are expecting around 79% of increase in mergers and acquisition, which gives you an additional, which requires an additional thought process in terms of managing and onboarding those workforces uh, onto the business workflows. So that's where also businesses are utilizing workspaces. And finally, replacement of the virtual desktop infrastructure, where you can very well go away with your on-premise VDI setup and use Amazon Workspaces to kind of use as a managed service to serve desktop as a service. So I want to quote certain customer case studies, which will help you to realize the benefits, what other businesses are achieving. And I'm very happy to share about Amazon.com, which is a retail customer for AWS. And their client engineering team was kind of struggling with a construct on how to kind of onboard the businesses or the workforces for them. And they kind of explored on the workspaces and now utilizing it and explored it for initial rollout of limited set of users, and then they expanded it around more than 25K of users. And the recent trend what we are seeing is that all the recent onboardings are basically are utilizing the workspaces to quickly onboard the workforce employees, and they don't need to wait for their actual machines to be shipped. They can easily onboard it and then can be start on to the business systems. So because of this, they are saving millions of dollars, and it's a great use case in which they are using it. Grubhub, again, a known food delivery service, which again utilizing the workspaces, and they kind of use workspaces to scale to the 1200 workspaces from the limited use case just in 2 days, which gives you a benefit and a feel of how agile it is in terms of increasing the uses or onboarding the workforce quite easily. Kyowa Kirin, again, this is a pharmaceutical company, and they have realized a cost benefit of around 30% by cutting down their VDI based infrastructure and using the managed workspaces solution for their business needs. So all these customers are utilizing in various ways. Taking example of Cornell University, they utilize workspaces to create the master levels courses from ground up, and then expose to the students with the lab works, real-time interactions uh, uh, within days, I mean, instead of weeks or months. So there are various ways in which businesses are using workspaces for their business needs. So with that, I'll take a pause here. And if you think that there are certain queries which you want me to answer, just type them in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them in the end of the session. Right now, I'll just cover the small demo, like to just show you the art of possibility and how easy it is to start with workspaces. So when we talk about workspaces, there are three key things or requirements which customers should be aware of. One is the client applications or the devices by which that application will be accessed. Second is the directory service, like how the users will be authenticated. And third is the VPC, how you will be securing your workspaces in the cloud, how the networking will flow together around them. So with that, let's go back to the AWS console. So here I'm in my AWS console. And if I just go back on to my workspaces, so once you are landing on the workspaces, this interface can change if you're coming on the first time, or if you are coming on the subsequent visits, that interface will change. But essentially, the things will remain same, that you have to configure a directory to authenticate the users, and then you have to select certain bundles, like how users will be accessing, what type of configurations basically they would be needing on desktop, and the users you need to set up for that. So let's see how it is done. So if you click on launch workspaces, you will get an option to kind of select different types of directories in which you want to manage the users. If you have the one already created, you can use that. Otherwise, you can create a new directory. If you click on that new directory, you will get an option to choose from various options available. Currently, Amazon Workspaces support AWS Managed Microsoft AD, which is a simple version of running the Microsoft AD in the AWS cloud. Or else you can use AD Connector, which is basically a proxy of redirecting the user request for authentication to your on-premise environments for Microsoft Active Directory authentication. Or you can use Simple AD, which is a simplistic or standalone managed directory based on the Samba directory protocol, right? So you can use that. For this demo, we'll just use that because it's simple and it's easy to show the concept using this. So if you click on next, you'll get an option to kind of select the directory size, where you have the option to select small and large. Small is the directory size where you have the user base less than or around 500, and requiring only 2000 sort of objects. And large directories is where you have the user base of around 5000 and 20,000 objects. So that is something which you have to see from the business need perspective. Let's go with small here, and then you have to give the organization name. For our demo, I'm just giving some demo name here, and let's give some demo.com. Okay. And then you have to give the administrative password. This is the administrator which will be managing that Active Directory for you. Let me just give that. Once you do that and click on next, you will be asked to choose the VPC and the subnets. Now you can very well run the Amazon workspaces in a default VPC, what you get as part of your AWS account. But recommendation is to create a VPC structure which secures your workspaces endpoints. So, so I've already created one for a demo purpose to show the construct. So I've created this. This VPC is having internet connectivity, and for outbound connections, it's having the NAT gateway in place so that private subnets, if required, they can go via NAT gateway. So for subnet preferences, I'll be pushing my workspaces inside the, I'll be using this directory to connect to the network interfaces in the private subnet. So I'll select the different two AZs for that. So directory service in Amazon Workspaces required at least two AZ deployment. So that's why I'm using two network endpoints here. Once that is done, you click on next, and you just click review and create directory. What it will do is it will create a directory for you where you can manage the users for your business. Now it will take some time. So meanwhile it is doing that, I'll just show you the existing directory which is already configured, and I'll show that. So if you, sorry. Yeah, so if you go to this directory, here you can see that I already have an active. This is creating, which we just created, but I'll just show the construct what you get once that is created. So if you click on update details, so here you have a lot of options to control in terms of how you can manage the authentication for your users. So for example, if you want to restrict use all cannot, so you can do that from here. So you can allow whether users can enable or can change the bundle types for their desktop or not, whether they can increase the size, can they restart, all those things you can control. You can also restrict traffic. So if you think that you want to restrict traffic for your workspace endpoint to certain IP ranges, you can use IP access control groups to control that. You can control the local administrative settings. If you want the users to have the local administrative rights, you can enable or disable them. You can control access to the internet, and then again your security groups you can manage to control the access. So once that is created, you have to create a launch workspaces. So once you click on launch workspaces, I'm currently utilizing the existing directory because the new one which we just created will take around 5-10 minutes, and the construct remains same. So let's go next, and then there you have to select the users which you want to provision the workspaces. So for example, if I want to spin up new workspaces, so this is 3, if I, and then let's give some test user and some email. So for example, if I give my company ID and click create user, so what it will do, it will create a user in the directory, and here you can see. And once that is done, you click on next step where you select the bundles. So here, as I mentioned, the PCOIP is another one protocol which you can use, and then there is a WSP protocol which you can use to select the bundle in which you want to stream the desktop traffic to the end devices. So for example, for this, let's click on this free tier eligible one. And once that is done, you click on next step, and there you have the options to select what is the running mode you want these desktop to be, whether it will be always on or it will be auto stop after a set duration of an activity. So you can control that. You can auto stop based on how many hours you want if the connection is not being used. So in that case, that desktop will be stopped, but once the user connect again, it will be started again with the same volume configurations what you have configured. And you can also encrypt root volume or user volumes based on your need. And then you click on next, and this will basically be launching a workspaces based on the bundle you have selected. And that's it. So with this, the new workspace will be launched for you. And how the experience look like after that is the user will get a notification, and they need to kind of use that notification to activate their workspaces account. So as you can see, the series of screenshot here is where the user will get an email on their email ID. They have to click on the link provided in that email to set a new password for them. And once that is done, they will also receive that in that email activation code which they have to do. Once that is done, their account is configured to be used on workspaces, so they can log in onto the workspaces. So that's what I will be doing. I have already created a account and activated it. So I'll just show you how that experience look like from end user perspective. So this is the client. So if that is not installed, you will get an email link. In that email, you will have a link to download the client also. So for my machine, it's already downloaded. So I'll just using that client on that. Just logging in. once you sign in, it will check your credential code, and then it will initiate your workspaces for you. So it will pick up from where you have left off, and you can start working on your machine. I think it's due to some inactivity, it's taking some time because I was not actively accessing it using our US version to US region to kind of spin up. But idea is what yeah, I think there is some connection issue, but it will work in a moment. So while this is coming up, let's go back to our PPT and so talk about the architecture. So we just saw the end user experience, how the workspaces is, how you can start with easily on that, and how the user's experience will be in terms of accessing those machines. Right. So this is the out-of-box architecture which you get once you deploy the workspaces. There are certain VPC managed by AWS to control the workspaces management services as well as the directory service interactions. Here I'm assuming that you need to require to connect your on-premise Active Directory. Users can access this workspaces outside the corporate network or within. The interaction will remain same. So the first, once they access, click on sign in link, they need to authenticate to this AWS directory service, which we just did that. That is done via authentication gateway, which connects to this AWS directory service, which utilizes the AD connector if you are using to connect to the on-premise network, and use that to connect to that. Once the session is properly authenticated, the streaming session is established with that end device using the protocol which you have selected for your desktop. If it is WSP, that will protocol be used to connect to the 4195 endpoint, or if it is PCOIP, then it will be 4172 endpoint will be used. Endpoint port will be used to connect to the streaming gateway. Again, that streaming gateway will be connecting to the Amazon workspaces, which is having the network interface endpoint exposed to your custom VPC, from where you can access this endpoint to connect to other applications, to your on-premises or other applications or databases running within your VPC and cloud. So that's how you control that interaction. So once that establishment of streaming traffic is done, the authentication session is continuously patched in to check if the session is still valid, and that's how it is being managed. So this is a very high level architecture in which it's been shown to explain how the things works end to end. Again, the directory service can change. It can be simple AD or other AWS managed service, but the underlying construct remains same. Now let's talk about the use case where customers want to run different type of user persona. So that is something which can be run also, where you can run the cloud and use these workspaces to spin up to different directory services and use those directory services to map out the user. So for example, if a full-time employee needs to have some different kind of rights and temporary staff needs to have some different kind of rights, you can create two directories and you can map users with them and attach those directories to the workspaces, separate workspaces. So in that way you can control. Similarly, if you want to control the network access or internet access, that can also be controlled. So it's an simplistic explanation around, and rest of the things remain same what we just talked about, but this is the difference which you can incorporate various types of user personas if you want to consider. Well, so then let's talk about the considerations, so which I want you to discuss with your teams, with your business, is do you have an existing VDI solution and does it meet your needs and vision? Do you have any third-party contractors for whom you are buying devices or creating some security risk? Unknowingly or knowingly, how do M&A and integration play into growth plans for your business? Do you operate in markets where you don't have any local IT infrastructure or support? While you ponder upon these considerations, I urge you or recommend you to consider Workspaces, which is, again, we just talked about, is a managed desktop as a service for the persistent experience, which is well fit to the needs which you're trying to address. And we do have the open offer where you can try out the Workspaces for free for 54 workspaces, 54 users, and see if that meets your business needs. With that, I just hand over to the next steps. You can reach out to your account team. You can discuss your needs, business needs. You can build up your cloud skills around workspaces on the trainings freely available on AWS site. We do publish a lot of white papers, guides, and videos to help you. You can go through them to see how and what architecture can meet your business needs. And if required, you can very well engage to the trusted AWS partner network, which can help you expedite your journey into the cloud and leverage all these services, which can help you further to increase your business. So with that, thank you again for taking time today. Let's take some questions. I'm not sure whether there are certain questions in the
So
chat window.
Thanks, Abhishek. So there were a few questions from the attendees. So I would request all the attendees and the participant here to raise hand, and then we'll take your questions one by one. Yeah, Neil, you can please speak. Hello, hi Neil. You can ask your question.
Yeah, what is the client user computer requirement for workspaces?
So for client user computer configurations, as we talked about, there are a lot of bundles which you can use for your uses in terms of like, for example, if you want to spin up a Windows machine, or if you want to spin up the Linux based machine, you can select the respective bundle, which comes with by default apps which you can use. And that's where you can control the configurations based on the CPU and the RAM, based on the bundles what you will be using.
So Abhishek, his question was basically like, is there a minimum configuration required for
Yes.
the client machine to host workspaces?
Yes, thank you.
No, so there is no specific minimum configuration required because this is a managed service running onto the cloud. You can access it from anywhere, any device. Only thing is that if that configuration is configured for trusted devices, then there will be a requirement that that devices should be trusted. Otherwise, you can access it from any client.
Okay, and what is the minimum requirement of the bandwidth? Internet bandwidth.
So again, it depends. Yeah, so again, it depends. Usually, when we talk about these client machines, they have that network bandwidth checkpoint which they can run and see like which region of the desktop service is more apt for them to spin up and where their data resides, and based on that they can take a call whether it makes sense to spin up the workspaces in India region, or it makes sense to run it in Singapore or any other region. So it depends on the network bandwidth what you're running in. So there is no specific requirement from the workspaces side that you need to have this much, provided you need to have a proper connectivity.
Okay.
Thanks, Neil, for your question. There is another question regarding compliance point of view. Okay, let me go through the question. So, compliant point of view, what are the common roadblocks AWS is facing and how AWS is competitive? So, I'm not able to understand what is the underlying question here. If you can, further elaborate. So, meanwhile, the current attendee elaborates on this question. There was a question regarding, does every customer who wants to have a workspace client on his laptop or a desktop, do they need to have an AWS account? So this was one of the questions that popped up in the chat, Abhishek.
No, so there's no specific need to have an AWS account. You just need a client and user account basically. So user account is the account which is used for authentication into the workspaces. So it's kind of a directory. So if your organization is having an AWS account, that's fine. In that they have created a directory, and in that they have added, let's say, 50 users from your organizations, and they have created an account for them. So they can use that sign in account to sign in into workspaces. They don't need an AWS account as such to log in into the workspaces. They need the AD account, but not the AWS account, if that answers.
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. So, guys, I would request you to raise a hand. Okay, one another hand. Sunil. Yeah, Sunil, please ask your question. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about the configuration. Though you have said I couldn't actually understand the slide at that point of time, or I wasn't able to read it. Uh, is the operating system and other things included when you say it's a desktop as a service? So, what is the inclusion which you have?
Yeah, so the inclusion, obviously you'll have the OS. So as showed in the demo also, while you select the bundle, you have the option to select whether you want the desktop experience of a Linux based operating system or you want a Windows based operating system. So you have that option, and then you can select the processing power for that bundle. So you can select the value, or you can standard or performance, which will vary your CPU and the RAM for that desktop. So with that performance, say for example, in this value, you will not get the Office product, but with the standard or performance, you will get an Office product also. If I quickly show that, that might help. So if I go, and, let's say next step. These, yeah, so once you select, so let's say show all users, and the users selected, so let's create one. Here you can see where you'll get an option to select whether you want an standard Windows 10 bundle with Office 2016 or without Office 2016. So that all options you will get to select as part of your
Okay.
standard bundle. Plus, you will get all these standard offerings like Firefox browsers and stuff which will be getting as part of
Okay.
your
The rest,
standard offerings.
and I can also set up. I mean, this can be taken up as an image so that I can replicate it for the rest of the users as well if required.
Definitely. So you can spin up a desktop and then create an image out of it based on your specific requirement. So you can do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Sunil. Any other questions from anyone? You can either write in the chat or raise your hand. So we'll wait for 30 seconds for anyone to take questions, and then we'll wrap.
Yeah, so I mean, it's not necessary that you have to come up with question just now. So if you feel that you have any further queries after this session, you can definitely drop an email to me or reach out to your account teams, and we'll be happy to address those queries.
Hi teams, it seems there are no more questions, so I will request all the attendees to get back to us with their queries later also. And towards the end, I would like to thank all of you for attending this webinar. and please reach out to the team. Our partner team Rapider will also be reaching out post this webinar to understand more about your opinions and your requirement. And we'll also be from AWS reaching out to you. We'll also be sharing our email ID in the chat so that you can reach out to us. With that, I would again like to thank you all, and please stay safe. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ashish. Thanks, Gurdipinder. Thanks, Abhishek.
Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you all the attendees for joining and taking out the time from your busy schedules. So please stay safe, everyone, in these pandemic times. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dheeraj. Thanks, everyone, for joining in. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you so much.